Prime Minister Prayut warns that the country will intensify COVID-19 measures amid the outbreak in Samut Sakhon province. And that's the epicenter of the latest surge in infections. Mr. Prayut, though, stopped short of declaring a nationwide lockdown. The government has identified different risk zones ranging from red to green. Red zone means a high infection rate at more than one location. This comes as 67 new infections are reported. And Success Samut joins us live from Bangkok right now. Success, first up, the different categories of risk zones. How will this affect some places going forward, especially with New Year celebrations coming up?
Glenda, these categorizations come after the big meeting of the government's coronavirus task force, and it basically gives the authorities, the provincial and local authorities on the ground, some clearer guidelines what they can and cannot do. For example, the highest category, the so-called red zones, that is basically going to be the zone with the highest control, and that is Samut Sakhon province, the epicenter of the current COVID-19 outbreak, and it basically gives them a raft of measures what they can and cannot do. For example, closing down businesses, restricting movements, but basically that province is already on a lockdown. And then from then on, with each step, it's being less and less restrictive. For example, Bangkok is in the second highest category now, with a high number of local infections being here reported in the low two-digit numbers. It doesn't mean, for example, that work from home is being mandated, but it's being recommended. But nevertheless, of course, with the end of the year celebrations being mulled, a lot of them also are being cancelled now as we speak, even though, for example, here in Bangkok, they're basically told that if they want to go ahead, they have to submit their policy guidelines. They have to get a permission from them. But apparently for many of the events that were going to take place, that might be too much effort. So that's why they're cancelling them outright.
Well, this no nationwide lockdown order, does this mean that the authorities, that they're very confident they can control the outbreak?
The government is still very confident that they can contain the current outbreak for now, especially because that the majority of the numbers that we are seeing right now are still among migrant workers, even though we haven't had any new numbers coming from that group of people, of affected people for 2 days in a row now, whereas the rest of the country, those numbers are still in the two-digit numbers, even though it has been now popping up in at least 27 provinces across the country. And that's not even just around Samut Sakhon, but also in very far-flung places in the north and in the south. But nevertheless, the government is still very confident. That's why they are not announcing a nationwide lockdown either. That is very important to note, that there's no nationwide lockdown. But the government is still urging, especially Prime Minister Prayut has come out to urge the people to still act very responsibly, to follow the guidelines of the local health officials, to still have the mask on, to wash your hands, and also to have your temperature checks, to download contact tracing apps, all the likes that we have seen for the majority of the year. And that is considering that Thailand has been pretty well in containing the spread of the COVID-19 until just now with this outbreak. But nevertheless, they are still confident that they can contain it. But it depends how widespread, how the numbers will develop over the next couple of days. But then if it goes the other way, there might be other more restrictions and other measures coming down the line before the end of the year. But again, that really depends how this will develop.
No, indeed. Thanks for that update. Success Samut speaking to us from Bangkok.